As a novelist, I require a lot of quiet time. Between reading and writing, I spend extensive gobs of time in silence. Vermont was my escape, and I bought a nice farm in the countryside. A good place to read and write. It sat atop a rolling green hill and was peppered with oaks, maples, and birch. It was late afternoon, just when the sun began to flood its golden hue across the valley. I made a fire in the library, then sat in my old leather reading chair. The mantel clock tick reminded me it was almost time to leave my summer retreat and head back to the gridlock of the city. The lawn was littered with red, brown, and yellow leaves. The winter wind came and bellowed a crisp gust, and some of the remaining leaves were set free from their wooden harbors. I watched as they were liberated. A cloud stretched across the sun slightly, dimming the golden hour. There was a knock on the door. It was George. When I bought the farm, George came with it. He took care of the cows and the other animals. Every evening he came into the house to share a coffee. "Busy?" he asked. I wasn't. "Come in, please." The country store was out of that good coffee, but they had this, George said, clearing his graveled throat. "My grandfather used to drink this stuff. Thought we'd give it a try." A little disappointed, but curious still. He handed me a green bottle. George must have had it on ice. The bottle was sweating with coldness. The green tint of the glass bottle, it seemed to radiate and fill the room with a vintage ambiance. I turned the bottle slowly and saw the label. It glistened subtly when the light caught it. Venetian Ginger Ale, it was called. Made with real ginger juice, real lime juice, and cane sugar. "Make sure you swirl it." "Swirl?" George just gestured, gently rotating his bottle with his wrist. At the bottom of the bottle, the ginger juice had settled, but when I swirled it, the bottle mixed, turning the liquid into an opaque light yellow. George handed me a bottle opener and then headed toward the door. "I gotta milk some cows," he said, and took a swig of his half-empty bottle, stoked the fire, and left. I looked back out the window and watched him walk toward the barn. On the side table, I saw the bottle of Venetian bubbling with carbonation and the bottle opener. The horizon was black and a deep purple. The darkness of the coming winter was showing. I took the bottle in my hands and popped open the cap. A sharp escape of carbonation briefly hissed. The smell of fresh ginger enticed my senses. I put the bottle to my lips and drank. A warm sensation of the ginger rushed down my throat, followed by a citrusy refreshment of lime, and the sweetness sat on my tongue. I was suddenly transfixed by all the delightful flavors and wanted more. I was bathed in pure joy. I threw open my window, called for George, but no answer. I rushed out of the house to tell him how amazing I thought the drink was and ask him where I could get more. "George," I called. In the dim light, the cows ate and swayed, but George was nowhere to be found. After stepping in a rather large cow patty, I looked through the window and saw George driving off. A cloud of dust followed. Hanging in the barn was an old tin Venetian sign. It said, "Be someone spicy," and it had an illustration of the Venetian bottle. I went back in after cleaning off my shoes. The clouds broke, and again the golden hue filled the valley. I sat back in my reading chair. Far off in the distance, I could make out a puff of dust as George drove off into the sunset. Soon the night came. I dreamt of Venetian. I couldn't wait to have it again. The refreshingness, the bite of the ginger, the sweetness, and bubbles filled my mind with wonder. Until next time, it was only a fleeting glimpse of happiness. The next day, I went to the country store to try and find some more Venetian. "Got any more of that Venetian Ginger Ale?" I asked the store clerk. Venetian, he thought to himself, still looking down at his newspaper that was spread across the checkout countertop. "That stuff that George brought me yesterday." The clerk looked up at me with a pale face. "Yesterday, are you sure?" The clerk spun his paper around so I could see it. His finger tapped on a black and white photo of George. At the top of the page in bold black lettering, it read, "Obituaries." "See here that George passed away Friday, 2 days ago. Said he had a heart attack. As sure as I'm sitting here speaking to you, I saw George days after he died. By some strange occurrence or some trick of light, it seems George's unfinished business was having one last bottle of Venetian."